Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to Breaking Bread with Alie and Gabby. I'm Gabby Loren.
And I'm Alie Valeria.
And we are bringing back Rabbi Yitz Jacobs today to talk about how we are manifesting the spiritual into the body, talking about body types. And I don't mean the diet kind. I'm talking about spirituality 101. Thank you so much, Rabbi Jacobs, for joining us today to have this discussion.
It's so great to be here with you guys. Having a good time.
It's
So
always fun.
Rabbi, what does it mean to manifest the spirit in the body?
So every energy can be harnessed. And we talked last week about how our soul harnesses these three primary energies, but also our bodies harness these energies as well. And what's interesting is that our soul energy that's primarily manifesting can be different than the energy that our body's grabbing onto. Okay, and that creates all kinds of fun ways of looking at yourself and experiencing some unique challenges that you have in conflicts. Okay, so we have a soul energy. We said there's Chaim, Bracha, and Tov, right? What was the Chaim energy from last week?
Alie.
I don't remember. We're horrible students.
We are. I remember Tov.
Okay, what was Tov?
Tov is good.
Good, do good, be good, right?
Yes.
Right? Do good, be good. What about bracha? You remember bracha? You guys had a lot of bracha.
Blessing.
Blessing, which means
Then Chaim
love, connectivity, pleasure. So the drive for a mission to do good and to be good, right? Champion a cause versus the drive for connectivity and love and nurturing and spiritual pleasure. And then the third one was meaning, right? The drive to assimilate ideas, to create powerful understandings, and to transmit the collected, accumulated wisdom of the generation to the next generation. Okay, so those are the three spiritual drives. And we saw in Torah, we have Abraham, who represented the one that was filled with love and kindness. Yitzchak was the one who was purpose-driven. He was willing to give his life for what was right. And then Yaakov had the dream of the ladder, which saw the totality of existence from the spiritual to the physical all lined up together. And he had that unbelievable perspective that we can't even imagine. So those are the three spiritual energies. Now, how do they look in a body, right? Because your body's also animated. Your body also needs life, and it's drawing off from these same three life energies. So first question, actually, before we get into the three energies is, why in the world do we need a body at all? I mean, if we're really primarily souls, why would God shove us into this body? We're screaming, we don't want to come down here, but we're forced. Why does God put us in this whole mess anyway? Why are we in these bodies?
I was literally going to ask you that, Rabbi J, if you could explain that, because as far as I know, is in Judaism, like we're just souls having a human experience, but we're in this life, we're incarnated into this body. So like I'm Alexandra, Gabri's Gabrielle, and you're Yitzhak, right? But like, who is your soul? Does it have a name? And like, why does it choose this body? And like, do we go into different bodies? Like, it's so complicated. So that's literally the question I was going to ask you. So I'm glad you said that.
So let's first look at the general, is why bodies at all, and then we could talk about why that body, right? But why a body at all? What's the purpose of a body?
Is it to put you through the physical experience to create balance between the physical realm and the spiritual realm so you can elevate your soul?
Yes, absolutely.
Ding, ding.
Yeah.
Use your vessel, right?
And I'm going to give you like kind of a little different way of understanding it. And that is that our soul doesn't have much of a sense of individual identity because it's attached to the most incredible light. And that light is just shining, and that light is so intense that it's like we're a drop of water in the ocean. You know, we just feel so connected to our source, and it's so incredible. But how much personal identity does a drop of water in the ocean have?
0.
Yeah. It's connected to the whole, but it doesn't have a sense of self. If you put it, however, into the air and you suspend it midair, well, now it has a sense of self. You can measure its temperature and how big it is, its volume, and how much salt is it, right? You have like definition and identity, individuality. Okay, but what's the problem with that? It's disconnected from its source now, right? So you finally have identity by being disconnected from the source. You could exist as a separate, independent self, right? But you're disconnected from your source. But what if you put in that water back into the ocean? What's going to happen to it?
It'll become whole again?
Well, it'll become part of the whole again. But what's going to happen to its individuality?
It loses it.
It's going to like just fuse back into the everythingness. So it almost seems like you can't have both, right? Either I have a separate sense of self, or I'm fused with the everythingness. So there is one solution. Imagine taking that drop of water and encasing it in clear plastic, right? And then dropping it back into the ocean. So what's going to happen now?
So now it maintains its own identity, but it's also part of the whole.
Yes. And that's what we're doing here right now. See, our bodies are actually shields, which shield us from the divine in order to give us the opportunity to have a separate sense of self. But they are porous. They do allow, with work, they do allow the light to penetrate and come through. So we can have a sense of self while we are experiencing the divine at the same time. And that is the point of life, exactly what Gabby said, is to connect the physical to the spiritual and join those two experiences together. And that's what you're going to have forever. There will be a you, and there will be an everything God, and you're going to have that beautiful, unbelievable paradise forever. Okay.
I've never heard anyone say porous. Like that makes so much sense. Like the light literally comes into our bodies, and then we can choose like how much light we are basically channeling through our bodies. I love that.
Yeah. But here's the challenge, is that our bodies, for good reason, drive us away from God to create that separation. Okay, but they don't have to. But they have an inclination to drive us away and to create separation. And that's the tricky part, okay? And that's why it's so important to study the bodies, because left to their own devices, they will define existence as purely physical and purely me. So let's look at the bodies, and we're going to look at kind of like their basic characteristics and then talk about how to harness them back to God, okay? Okay, so the first body, we'll go in the same order, is called the Bracha body. Okay, the Bracha body, if I had to ask you, how do you take a Bracha soul, which is about love and connectivity and spiritual pleasure, and make it physical, so you seem like you're fulfilling that soul's drive, but it's really going toward the physical instead of a spiritual experience, right? You hear that like kind of, right? It can't be the opposite of the soul's drive to pull you away, because you would not be fooled. It has to kind of go along the soul's drive. So what does a Bracha body look like?
How do you want us to explain that? Because it's very interesting. I'm like, by action or by physical look?
You could do all, yeah, sure.
Action, maybe someone who is capable of giving to others and puts others in like first, I guess. Charity, chesed, is just somebody who like opens their home, for example, Shabbat, does mitzvot, things like that.
So you're right, but how is that different than the Bracha soul, the giving soul? How is the body with the Bracha energy different than the soul with the Bracha energy?
Because they're able to physically do things that in the physical material world that coincide with the soul? Is that possible? Like if I want to do charity, I can feed the homeless,
Right.
physically feed the homeless with my hands.
But that drive is in accordance with your soul. What's
Is
the
it-
drive that kind of pulls you away from the soul that still has the bracha energy?
Is bracha lighter or dark or deeper? I'm trying to understand. So if it's like giving, wouldn't it be lighter?
What do you mean by lighter?
Like not as like large or firm or stuck.
Okay.
When I
Yeah.
think of lightness, like a little bit like maybe thinner. I don't know.
Okay. No, not necessarily thinner.
Interesting.
So I'll give you a hint. So we just said the bracha soul is about love and connectivity and spiritual pleasure. So the bracha body is about what kind of pleasure?
Oh, intimate?
Physical pleasure, right? It's warmth and connectivity and pleasure, but on a physical level rather than a spiritual, gracious level, right? The bracha body is a warm, loving body. Okay, it wants to have fun. The bracha body is not complicated. It exudes this warm, loving, giving energy. It's a warmth. You want to hug a bracha, right? You just feel comfortable. Like a bracha soul, you walk into their house and they say, "Good Shabbos." You just feel so enveloped in their graciousness. A bracha body, you walk into their house, you kick off your shoes and you raid the fridge, right? It's a different type of love and pleasure and connectivity. Okay, so the body wants to smell the roses, wants to enjoy this world, right? Its idea of camping is the Beverly Hilton, right? It hates needles, hates bugs, loves Diet Coke for whatever reason, right? Because it's all the pleasure with none of the guilt, right? Bracha bodies, they're beautiful parents because they just evoke just a sense of stability with love and warmth and connectivity, right? They're just a presence and they're just very, 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 right? They're warm. They like doing nice things for people. They hate confrontations, right? And some of the challenges, well, first, they want to be taken care of. They like being pampered. Um, they like the physical. They like experiencing the world. They could like traveling and right, but to experience the world, they like food. They like, you know, they like to consume this world, right? Okay, so that's a bracha body.
So then it
But-
sounds like the body is like actually maybe a little bit larger because they're just kind of
Okay.
indulging in the world a little
So
bit.
a bracha body, if it's not careful, could be a little bit larger. It's the nourishing body, right? Like my secular example is a Marilyn Monroe. Okay, so now
That's
the
good.
models are like sticks. But back in the day, a model was like voluptuous, right? A model was like, I'm physical, I'm warm, physicality, right? It was like you just felt Marilyn Monroe's bracha energy. So that was what we called, right? Extremely attractive, and that's changed over time.
I think it came back.
Is it coming back?
Yeah, history repeats itself. Like I think it's a little bit more extreme, but like that Kim Kardashian sort
Oh,
of
you're
like
right.
curvy, like voluptuous body is popular today.
So that's a bracha body. You feel physical. It's not in the fantasy in the mind, it's physical. There's a heat, a warmth, right? That's a bracha body.
I'm really proud of us for getting this far on our podcast and not talking about the
Before we
Kardashians.
talk.
I think we're like 30 episodes in now or something.
Go ahead, Rabbi J. Continue.
So, what are the challenges of a bracha body? We said one already. They could get very into physical pleasures and not consume them with discipline, right?
It's hard to find jeans that fit. Just kidding. I'm speaking for myself.
But do you want a bracha body in your life, on your team? Yeah, warmth and connection and like smooth over all the rough path. Like they're like there. They're there with you. They're there for you. They're amazing people. But what are their challenges?
Overindulgence.
Okay, overindulgence, definitely.
Or having people take advantage of them.
Okay, so they're the ones that can have people take advantage of them more easily because they get addicted to relationships. And even though there is sometimes a lot of pain in relationship, not having the relationship is more painful in some ways, or leaving the relationship than tolerating the pain. So they can be addicted to relationships themselves. Okay, because there is a certain type of pleasure in that connectivity, even if there's a lot of pain associated with it also. Right? They're the
Sorry,
what?
I was also just I was doing a live in my Facebook group, and I was talking about pain and pleasure. And if we're moving too much towards pleasure, we never want to have pain. So then we can't really grow, because growth and pain are like they coincide and they go hand in hand. So like I could see a bracha body kind of like just staying stuck, like being happy, but only finding pleasure in like material things.
Yeah, yeah. They could get a little lazy, right? They can become complacent and lazy. You know, if you think about horses, like the bracha body horse is the one that just wants to sit around and eat all day and chewing and, you know, hitting the flies off its back. But like, it's kind of content with pretty simple pleasures, right? And so it doesn't have a lot of drive. A lot of people that are very studious, if they have a chayim neshama, will want to explore the upper worlds in a bracha body, which is happy for them to just sit with a donut, right? So those people can really sit for a lifetime and just explore the world. A lot of people that are very high up, like the Rosh Yeshivas, I found, have a lot of times it's a chayim soul and a bracha body, right? The body doesn't want to put out fires all the time. Okay, it's more content. So we said a bracha body, one, can be overindulgent. Two, it can get taken advantage of, right? Because they get addicted to relationships and the connectivity of a relationship. They can take advantage of because of that, because they're willing to sacrifice, you know, their needs for the sake of a relationship and being in a relationship. Another last thing is that bracha bodies can sometimes be smothering to others, okay? Because they have so much connectivity and so much to give. And, you know, if you ever see a Jewish grandma, right? So you walk in and they're like, you look so skinny, you must eat. Right? You say to them, you know what, I just had a big dinner, I'm fine. What do they say back?
Do you want some food? Like they keep asking.
It's not a choice, right?
Yeah, it's not a choice.
You're right, right? So before you know it, you're like bursting and you've eaten something. And then what do they say next?
Have more?
Eat. Okay. So who's getting the pleasure from this food right now? You or them?
They are.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they're getting the pleasure from this giving and from this, right? But it's actually hurting you. So a bracha can sometimes be smothering because they want to give and they want to connect and they want to nurture and they want to share. But sometimes it could just be about their needs and not about your needs.
So not only are they overindulging, but they're overindulging you as well.
They are, yes. And it could get a little controlling in your best interest. They are being very controlling oftentimes, right? But they are coming from a place of giving you pleasure. It ends up giving you pain, but they're coming from a place of giving you pleasure, right? So that's the overprotective. So those are the three things that often get a bracha body into trouble. Okay. So next one we'll look at is the tov body. So the bracha body, as we said, is the pleasure body. It's warm, it's soft, it wants to connect, right? The tov body. How do you take the tov drive in the soul to do good and be good and misdirect it into the physical, where it still feels like you're kind of achieving the drive, but instead of going to the soul's purpose, it's going down into the body as a separation from the spiritual. What does the tov body look like?
More disciplined.
Yep, very much so.
Has a regime, maybe like works out, eats
Got
healthy,
the drive.
sleeps, yeah.
But
Plans.
what was the tov soul was driving for? Good, right? What's the Tov body driving for? They're both drivers, but what's it driving for?
To feel good?
Okay. That's kind of the bracha body, actually, is into
Mm.
feeling.
To
Wants
be
to
good.
feel good. What?
Be good.
Well, the Tov body wants to look good. Wants to look good. It's into status. You know, like if you ever imagine your dream car, this beautiful car that you've been dreaming about, that someday you should achieve status and you should achieve recognition, you should achieve wealth, and you can get this car. And you see someone driving down the block in your car, convertible, color, right? And who's driving it is a very distinguished doctor who has created life-saving techniques that have saved the lives of tens of thousands of people all over the world. And he's driving this car. How do you feel about that? Okay, right? He deserved it, right? Right? I mean, he definitely was contributing. Now, what if you see driving that same car a drug dealer that you know made the money for that car selling drugs to children? How do you feel about that guy driving the car?
Yikes.
I feel like, why is it easy for him and so hard for me?
Okay,
At that point.
You feel it's unfair, but for sure you feel unfair, right? A
Yeah.
lack of fairness.
Mhm.
You feel a little bit of disgust that this is how this guy made his money,
Mhm.
right? So what did that guy, the drug dealer, care more about? Being good or looking good?
Looking good.
That's right. And he did whatever it took to get there. Okay, so that's the Tov body, incredible drive. But the drive is not to be good, it's to look good.
So they're not the doctor in the situation. The Tov body is the apparent drug dealer, hypothetical drug dealer, right?
It could be. I mean, you can harness the Tov drive to become a doctor too.
Huh. So just how you use it, basically.
How you use it, right? You could say, I want to combine my desire to give with a drive to succeed and become a doctor that way. Okay, but with only the drive to just look good, did you want that doctor to operate on you?
No.
Did you? No.
Not unless they're a plastic surgeon.
Exactly.
His drive is for him to look good, not for you to look good.
But maybe if he knows the difference, he'd be good at it.
So would other Tov bodies be like models or actors or people who kind of show up so that they're looking good, they're maintaining?
Yeah, Tov bodies are wherever you go when you want to look good, status, success, right? They're very disciplined, they're very driven, they're very focused. They always have this energy to achieve and to accomplish, right? They want to get ahead and they're willing to step on people to do it because, you know, everyone's just a pawn in their game of life. And a pawn is something that you knock off when it's no longer useful. So Tovs are very, just like the Tov soul was very into the collective and not into the individual, the Tov body is very into the collective idea of his status and success, and the individual is kind of expendable, right?
Who would be a good 21st century example of that?
Okay, so I would say any like Sylvester Stallone or like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies where, you know, you could cut them and you can burn them and you can shoot them and you could explode them and they can burn, right? And they're still going to get their man. They are dependable, fearless. They are, right? They are driven. They are, right? They're going to get their man because that's their number one priority and their drive is to succeed, right? That's the discipline. Are they trying to bring good into the world, like a Tov soul, and fix the world? You know, it could be. They could harness that too, but a lot of times, left to its own devices, a Tov just wants to look good. That's all it cares about.
But didn't Arnold Schwarzenegger also work in politics?
Yeah.
So he was kind of one of those Tov bodies that also wanted to give back.
Well,
Not just for the looks, possibly.
Yeah, look, again, you can create a soul body harmony. That's actually what we're going to talk about at the very end, is exactly how to do that.
Can you have souls in different bodies together, like a Bracha soul and a Tov body?
Absolutely. Very common. In fact, it's pretty rare to have the same body and soul at the same type. It's very rare.
Would you say it's easier to get by in life if you have both the same soul and same body?
No,
Oh, it's harder.
it's confusing
Oh,
because you don't
yeah.
know which part of you is coming from your body or your soul.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier when you have a different soul and body drive because then you can kind of figure out yourself a little bit easier. It's not as confusing.
Does that also help you to separate your intuition versus like, I don't know, fear or other physical things?
Yeah, your higher intuition is probably coming from your soul, and your fears are probably coming from your body.
Hmm.
So, if you're tapping into, and again, we all have all three of the souls, but typically one is predominant, right? But we have all three of the souls. We have all three amazing drives. And our bodies are like three different types of horses, right? We got the one that just wants to sit and eat all day. And then we got the workhorse, with the one that wants to finish the race. You know what I mean? Like first. That's the second kind of horse. That's the Tov body. And some people are walking around with that type of body that their soul is riding on, right? So you got the love muffin, right? Bracha. And then you got the armored, war horse. That's the Tov. That's the Tov horse. Okay.
The Trojan horse.
What?
Trojan horse.
So what are the challenges of a Tov body? We started to talk about some of them already, but what are the challenges?
Perfectionism.
Absolutely. Perfectionism.
Mm.
What else?
Maybe only seeing things black and white.
Yep. Be very judgmental.
Yeah.
Mm.
Probably also has like issues with like control, and like if they're not in control, they're like
Yep.
out, very anal.
Yep. Control. Excellent.
Looks good on the outside, messed up on the inside. A lot of LA people I feel like are very Tov.
Actually, we're going to see a lot of LA people in the next one too. A lot.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. Also, Tovs can be, kind of cruel and overpowering. They could disregard people and people's needs and feelings, right? A lot of Tovs confuse caring with doing. So they think if I do for people, that shows that I care. But then their wife could leave them and say, you gave me things, but you didn't ever care about me. You didn't ever, the guy's like, what do you mean? I gave you everything, right? So the difference between doing and caring. So yeah, they can be aggressive, crushing the opposition, insensitive to the needs of others. But again, do you want a Tov on your team? They are going to perform, get the job done, fearless. They have thick skins, Tovs. They have thick skins, right? The brachas are, the Tovs have thick skins, and they're mission oriented, right? Why are you laughing?
No, I was just thinking like they're like the quarterbacks of the team. They like
They're the
care.
quarterbacks, right?
Tom Brady, like let's go.
That's
I
right.
think we're also laughing because in our minds we're thinking of people we identify with these things.
That's right.
So it's funny, when you start saying like, oh, this person's, a Tov, this
So
person's
true.
Bracha.
Who's the love muffin body and who's like the Tov body, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Let's do the third one. Ready? Okay, the third one is Chaim. So the drive of the Chaim, we said the Chaim soul was this unbelievable commitment to reality, to truth, to understanding, right? And to transmit that truth and reality into the world, right? And establish that. So how do you kind of misdirect that by creating a Chaim body? What does that look like in the body, that drive?
Are they more balanced?
No, not necessarily. Again, you could have healthy ones of all of these, right? But what's a Chaim body at essence about? One word.
It's life. It comes from chaya, right? Life.
Life.
So it's like maybe just like truly feeling connected to the physical world.
What do you mean?
Like I don't want to use the word overindulgent because that's the other personality or body type, but truly utilizing things in the physical world to their benefit.
That might be more tov, like really utilizing and benefiting.
I feel like the Chaim is probably the middle between the Tov and the Bracha, but I don't know how that manifests into a body.
Right. So if the drive of the soul is truth and reality and meaning, right?
Oh, it's like the social. What about the people that are like about social causes and really active for social justice? Is that a Chaim?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. It could be a bracha soul with the tov body, you know. But you're getting there. You're like starting to feel it.
Or warmer.
Yeah. You're feeling it, like
Marco Polo. I'm trying to think what else. I feel like it obviously is connected to life. Like it has to be something that's connected to life.
We said life was meaning.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
tell us, Rabbi, we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of being committed to truth and reality as your source of meaning, the Chaim body creates fantasy as its source of meaning. Okay? The Chaim body is into fantasy, to create your own truth, your own meaning with unbelievable creativity. Okay, Hollywood is a Chaim body world because people there are creating universes. They're creating people and characters, and they're making them seem so real that we suspend our disbelief and actually get absorbed and engaged in what's going on. Okay, that ability to use your creativity to create something real and give it life, that's a Chaim body. Okay, Chaims are the most intuitive, the most empathic. They can feel what you're feeling. They have this unbelievable creative imagination. Okay, and that's how they can tune into, even if they've never experienced, they have this ability to perceive and to tune into and be attuned to what other people are experiencing.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to name off like 3 people. Tell me if you think they'd be a Chaim. Albert Einstein.
Chaim soul.
Oprah.
I actually think, and this again is just a guess, but I think she might have a Chaim soul and a Bracha body. Because
Disney.
her soul is so into like ideas, right? That's Chaim, and her body is a love, right? Nurturing body. That's what it feels like to me. I don't know her personally.
I was just feeling like Chaim is more like boho. Like they're like a little bohemian.
Yeah.
Like
they want experience. Okay.
Yeah, but then what about like a Walt Disney who created Disney World and like animations?
Chaim. That's Chaim.
Okay.
Big time.
body Chaim or his soul is Chaim?
Body Chaim. He wasn't into like truth and meaning and like, right, the upper worlds like Oprah is, right?
Yeah.
He was into creating a fantasy, right? For a good reason. I'm not saying it's for a bad reason. Like I'll give you some ways of differentiating. Okay, so what type of movies do the 3 bodies like? Okay, so what type of movie does the Bracha body like?
Something indulgent, some like rom-com or comedy.
Exactly. The girls like the rom-coms, the guys like the prepubescent guy who's a virgin, coming of age, you know what I mean? Like, and finally not being a virgin. Like that's, the guys want like the frat house party, right? And the girls want like the romance. That's what a bracha is all about, bracha body. Okay, what about a tov body? What kind of movies do they like?
Action.
Yeah.
Really?
Tov bodies want either action or like Wall Street. Drive and discipline and like the superhero movies and the fighting and the challenges and the overcoming, right? All that hero's adventure, that's a Tov. Tovs are really into that.
Like the Marvel series.
Yeah. Although there's some Chaim in there too, which we'll see in a minute. So what's a Chaim all about? What kind of movies do Chaims love?
I feel like Chaim's more Star Wars though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Star Wars, Star Trek, Westworld. like that.
Right. And like the ultimate is like things like the Matrix and Inception,
Ooh,
right? Where there's a world and
yeah.
a world and what's reality, what's true. You know what I mean? It's like all of that. It's just like, and with complex, interesting characters, you know, like those weird movies with the weird, complex characters. Okay. All that is like Chaim body. That's what they're into.
Mm,
Okay. What about restaurants? What kind of restaurant does a bracha like to go to?
Southern Comfort. All you could eat. Is that what you said, Alie?
Buffet. What?
Korean barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. You know, great. That's right. Okay, what about a Tove? What kind of restaurant does a Tove want to show up at?
Like a sushi restaurant or
Gonna say sushi 100%. They're like, I'll have the Toro.
yeah.
But for Tove,
Structured.
it's really not about the food. It's about where to be seen.
Yeah, well, sushi in LA.
Yeah, you know, this is the place to go to be
Katana.
seen, right? Like this is the cool
Koi.
place. This is the up place. This is the hip place, right? Like that's where the Tove wants to be. They want to be with those people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what about the Chaim? What does the Chaim
The
want?
farmer's market.
Yeah, you know, or like
Spots.
Thai, Indian fusion, where you go and there's palm trees with bamboo. It's like an experience. So Chaim, yeah, they're very creative. They can feel things. They can feel people. They can kind of figure out what's going on inside of people because they're very attuned and they're very intuitive and they have this very creative imagination that can be used to like not just be in absolute truth, but to create it and understand and feel and just explore.
But you said
Well,
Chayims create their own reality, right? So what if you're so into creating your own reality that you're like separating yourself and isolating yourself from the world and other people?
so a lot of actors, especially the ones that do the method acting,
Mhm.
so they are Chaim bodies and they get so into their role and they become it and they live it. Then they get into the next role and they become it and they live it. And what happens eventually is they don't actually know who they are. See, Chaims have the least stable sense of self because it's so easy for them to experience other things and kind of become that. So they have a lot of times what Chaims need to do is they need to take a break from people and regenerate their sense of self and then go back into the world because they're so attuned and they're so influenced by what
So they're kind of like chameleons.
they can be, yeah.
I'm
But
also
they can be, but they're like a lawyer. Some of the best lawyers are Chaims because they can understand both sides of the case. They could argue either side because they're so intuitive. Okay, therapists and psychologists, Chaims make great therapists and psychologists because they can actually really experience what a person's going through and they can help lead them because they're there with them to a different place. Okay.
Chaim body or the Chaim soul?
Chaim bodies. Chaim souls are, you know, in objective reality, they're not in this world in the same way like that. Okay. They're more on a global. So what are the challenges of a Chaim body?
They lose themselves.
They can
don't
lose
know.
themselves. Okay,
Those-
excellent. They can lose themselves.
I was thinking a little bit about Heath Ledger. I know it's really sad, but like he was so into his like Joker character and he became so consumed by that and like unfortunately, you know, he died. But I feel like that's a big example of someone who just like completely lost themselves and then
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Lost their sense of self in this creative imagination.
Whoa,
they
what
had.
about 2020? Like people that are so in tune with the news and oversaturated with it and really being empathic towards the sick.
Yeah.
Can they lose themselves in this time?
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
For sure. Look, a bracha body could also feel like people are hurting and they want to kind of alleviate suffering and pain, but a chaim will identify with each person that's in pain,
Mhm.
right? Which can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
high-end bodies get sick a lot because they're taking on other people's stuff.
If they're not protected, they could, yeah.
So maybe even like
Absolutely.
a healer or someone like
Yes, for sure. For sure. So Chaims also can have what I call a venomous tongue, right? See, Chaims, a lot of times their whole reality is kind of built on something that's pretty insubstantial. And if you start to poke around, then they know how to lash out at you exactly where it's going to hurt with their tongues, right? They know what's going on where your darkness is, and they know how to just open that up and level you. So you got to be careful with a Chaim, okay? Because that creativity can be used to help people, but can also be used to deconstruct people and to hurt people, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think we are, just for your observances?
So
I'm all three.
what? Yeah, everyone's all three.
Yeah,
Everyone's
We
all
all
three.
have it.
I like all three. Because we're
Everyone's all
also
three.
like, we have so many masks too, I think. And that's the thing about our bodies is that our souls are like their own spirits, but then our bodies kind of take on different forms depending on what we need, especially in LA. Like you can be warm and loving and kind. Like you go to a Shabbat dinner and you're like, you're super bracha. And then you're like in the world in Los Angeles and you have to be tov because you're on
Right.
a show. And then you're like, I don't know. I'm like an inner hippie too. So I'm like, yeah, I love vegan food. And like, I'm going to
Yeah,
go
then
to
you go to like a Hollywood party and all of a sudden you're like, oh, Chaim,
yeah,
you know?
like everything.
But there's probably different, of course, percentages of those things that you are. Not everyone walks into Shabbat dinner feeling like a tov. Some people might actually be the Chaim walking into the Shabbat dinner
That's right.
because they're more dominant.
And they're thinking, right, they're feeling the ambiance and they're feeling, right, the totally different experience it could be. The bracha's eating the food and enjoying the wine and the company and the good feelings of people, right? And the Chaim is like feeling the Kabbalah of like how God's divine presence is coming down and uniting us, and you know, I mean, there's all these different levels that you could experience anything on.
You know what that makes me think about? You know, when you invite people to Shabbat dinner, even as someone going to someone else's house for Shabbat dinner, if they say, oh, bring a friend, and you bring a friend, let's say you bring someone who has no experience with Shabbat, but you have this amazing experience. Maybe you're a Chaim having the experience, and you're like, I want them to experience that. And then you invite them with the intention that they're going to feel like a Chaim, but they might not feel like a Chaim. They may feel like a bracha or a
Right,
tov when they
right,
come out of it. So
right.
that just changed my whole perspective on everything actually just now with this conversation, because I don't think any two people are going to have the same experience, even if you want them to have the experience when you
Because
bring
we're
them into
all
something.
experiencing different energies, right? And they different energies motivate us,
Yeah.
right? So depending on what energy motivates people and what wavelength they're experiencing life on, right? They're going to have a different experience of that life.
Yeah. It's the same thing if you like invite someone to like your class, or, you know, Rabbi T's having a class. Alie, come to Rabbi T's class. You don't know, like he's an amazing teacher. And then you come in and you have your own experience with it.
Right,
It's so interesting.
right. It's depending on your soul and body type. It also depends on where you are in your life right now.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah,
broke
it's
up with
true.
someone and you're like in the dumps, you know, you don't want to listen to anyone right now, you know.
So could you be like muting your bracha or your tov body when you're
You could
doing
get
that,
crushed.
silencing it?
Absolutely, you can get crushed. Brachas can get crushed more easily in some ways. Chaims can get crushed too because they're sensitive, right? And their egos are very sensitive because it's so fragile. Like, who am I, right? So they build up this kind of like thing of who they are, and then they can get crushed easily. And brachas can get crushed too.
This is actually reminding me of your meditation class now, because when we would all give you feedback on what we thought about it at the end of the meditation, everyone's experience was so different
Yeah.
too. Everyone had different things to say. And like some people are contradicting each other,
Right.
you know? So then for you, I'm like, oh my God, this must be so difficult for Rabbi J, because like what advice does he take and what advice does he leave at the door?
But I'm the
Because
Chaim
everyone is
body.
different.
So I'm trying to like infuse everything that you're saying and like balance it all, right? Like I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to hold on to all of it and just kind of figure out how to navigate it all,
Yeah.
right? So what's the life formula of success? You ready? Very important. You want to achieve the mission of your soul using the tool of your body. Okay, that way all of you is engaged and all of you is on board. You don't leave anything behind, right? You're a Chaim, you want to go for you want the Nobel Prize, right? Or you're a Tov, you want to change the world. You're a Bracha, you want to feed the hungry, right? Right? And then what's the tool? What's the tool that you're going to do this? Is it your drive and ambition? Is it your love and warmth? Or is it your creativity? Right? Like, what are you going to do? So that if you can get both of those things online, all of you is engaged in your life. It's all being channeled and all of you will feel 100% plugged in. So my advice is start figuring out your body soul combination and then start giving it some time. Just a little bit. You don't have to change everything overnight or ever change it all the way, but start making some time. Right? What's that aspiration of my soul and what revs up my body? And start to figure out how to make that combination happen a little bit in your life. And I think you'll see that miracles will come out of it.
Is it easy for you to identify what people are soul and body wise?
When I speak to them, yes. I mean, I can identify somewhat just on the basis of kind of seeing, but I sit there and I ask questions. I don't guess. I ask them questions. I say, what, right? And I figure it out with them.
So, Rabbi, I have a question about souls because I feel like so many times we get lost in our bodies because it's like we're so attached to the physical world, and we lose our souls. We lose what like our soul purpose is. And I just did Date with Destiny, which is like a Tony Robbins event with one of my clients recently. And we were talking about how you create your destiny, and basically it's tuning into your soul. It's tuning into like, what is your soul's purpose? But it's also what kind of mark do I want to leave in this world? And like, what do I want to be remembered for? So it's exactly what you're saying is like, it's connecting to the soul, which is the higher spirit, but then also like the body and what your attributes are on this earth.
That's right.
So would you start from the soul and then go to the body, or like how do you navigate that to find your purpose?
I mean, I would start with the soul because, your body is the tool. And it's going to be much more difficult figuring out exactly what nuance is going to make your soul feel like it's rocket powered, right? Like what's creating that nirvana? Like, oh, this dream and this goal and this ideal, like, wow. Right? When you can figure that out, then let your body go to work. Your body knows what to do. Your body knows how to get through the physical world. So I don't think you have to figure that out so much. You have to strategize, of course, but, you let it go.
I love that this is just like another tool on like how to figure out how to like tune into yourself so that you can basically be the best version of you.
And it's so important because otherwise people get lost and confused. I have competing drives and you get lost and confused, and therefore you start to kind of like go in circles. You contradict yourself, or you kind of get stuck and paralyzed because you don't know how to reconcile and navigate and harmonize who you are. So it's really important. And, another time, maybe we can talk about how to find a person to match you if you're not married yet, right? And how to kind of figure out which combination that you're looking for. Because I find that people have about 2 combinations that are going to really work for them. And if you can focus on that and look for the people that have that combination, you will find a click that you've never.
Wow.
You didn't, yeah.
This is part 3 of our series.
That's a quick part, though.
That's a good one. Yeah. So wait, Rabbi, what are you?
I am a Tov soul. So I want to change the world. I want to bring God into the world. There's some Chaim in there also. You hear what I'm like? But like, I want to bring Mashiach. I want there to be a fundamental utopia change, revolution in the world. It's getting more Chaim, though. That's the truth. And my body is a Chaim. How do I do it? through connecting and teaching and sharing and getting into people's lives and helping build them, right? That's a Chaim body thing.
Interesting. Gabs, what are you? Do you
Yeah, what do you
know?
guys think you are?
I don't know. That's why I was asking you. I need help defining
My
it.
gut for you, you guys are kind of similar. I would say for you, Gabby, it would be a bracha soul and probably a Chaim body. Bracha soul is like that love and light, and the Chaim body is very attuned and connected and creative.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that you are also a bracha soul, Alie.
Yeah, I think so
Oh,
too.
but you have a lot more tov in your body. Your body wants to move and act and do and like, right? Like
I think I'm like Chaim Tov. But yeah,
Chaim.
Tov for sure, because I'm very like, I'm malleable. Like I'm just like, I go with the flow. Like I can dress like a hippie, but then dress up and be professional. And like, yeah, I'm very flowy.
And you, yeah, everyone has, we're all a mix. We're all balanced.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, what are you being in your life is really a better question right now. Like, what are you being in your life right now?
Yeah.
That's the key.
Right?
Because maybe you can have these things as default, but part of your soul purpose and journey is to really come to like find yourself in your true body and your true soul, right?
But I'll tell you that once you do that and you accept who you are and you really tap into who you are, then who you are starts to broaden. You'll start getting access to the other energies from your place of strength.
Hmm.
And then you'll become more and more balanced, actually. But you have to start with what you started with. You got to own it. You got to celebrate it, right? And then you'll see that you'll start to build on the other components if you don't have them already.
This is so fascinating. Rabbi, we so appreciate you being on with us. And I also know, so Gabby and I were part of your meditation experience that you just started. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that too?
So we're about to start 2.0. We brought 35 people through 7 weeks. Each week there's a 15-minute meditation that you do once a day, the same meditation. And then the second week, I swap it for a new one. And it's a whole process of experiencing your higher self, organizing your whole internal world, and resolving conflicts within. So we finished our first, and I'm retooling it, and it's a whole order of magnitude better than it's been, and I really think it's actually going to hit globally.
Okay, so to be continued. So we'll talk more about your meditation series on another episode. Maybe talk about relationships. There's so much. So thank you, Rabbi, for coming on again. We really appreciate all of your wisdom. And where can people catch you?
You can catch me, best way probably is at my email address, which is yjacobs@hla.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rabbi J. We had such an intellectual and spiritual conversation here today, talking about the body types and how they also connect to the soul types that we played into last week. So we look forward to more conversations with you. And if you guys loved this video or audio podcast, please like and subscribe and also leave a comment below. And we'll see you next week. Love, your 2 favorite Jewish girls and
Rabbi J.
Rabbi J.